Do you want to get a jump start on your Christmas cards? How about using patterns you already have to make your holiday cards faster and easier? Hey crafty friends, it's Chelsea, and today I'm bringing you another creative design team collaboration video. We are doing our Christmas in July series this week, and we have lots of exciting things to share with you. So Jema and Andrea started things off yesterday, Katie and I are posting today, and then the rest of the team will be posting in the next few days. I will link the playlist at the end of this video as well as down in the description box so you don't miss anything. I also have a really exciting announcement for you, so make sure you keep watching this video, and let's get into today's project. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how I took this Cake Day card making workshop guide that was designed for birthday cards and transform it into an easy to follow pattern for Christmas cards. If you've purchased any of the Close to My Heart card making workshops, then you know they come with this beautiful full color guide that shows you how to cut all the paper, gives you exact stamping instructions and assembly tips. These are not a one and done. You can use them again and again just by substituting your own paper and stamps. For my cards today, I wanted to use some of this rose gold foil paper that's retiring at the end of August, and then I thought might as well do a non-traditional color scheme. So I'm using Mulberry, Peach, maybe some Sage, Harbour, and Mink. If you don't care for non-traditional Christmas cards, keep watching anyways, because the tips I'm going to share can be applied to any paper you choose. This is a great way to use up some of your paper stash. My first step in repurposing this guide is figuring out what papers I want to swap out. So first up, I have the little zip strips up here, the branding strips. I thought I was going to use that shimmer trim for those pieces, but I didn't end up liking how warm it was, so I swapped that out for silver glitter paper. For the first paper on the left there, I used a rose gold plaid. And then for the paper right next to it, I used the rose gold random dot pattern. If you choose a pattern paper that has a direction to it, you'll want to make sure when you're cutting it that you rotate your paper the correct way. Next up, I used the light side of Mink for the yellow pieces. And then down here, I used the Harbour, and I used the light side of that one as well. I found the light sides worked better. And then right here, I used the Peach also on the light side. Next, we have the orange pieces, and for that, I used the light side of the Mulberry cardstock, that really nice pink. And then the pieces that are cut from white, I also used that one. I didn't end up using the Sage because it just didn't quite fit the way I wanted it to. There's a couple pieces that I swapped out for silver glitter paper, and I will mention those as we go along. Now you may have noticed right on the guide, I wrote in pencil what colors I was swapping out for what. So that way as I was cutting, I could reference it and make sure I was cutting the right colors in the right dimensions. As I cut my pieces, I also stack them into piles. So all the pieces for card 1 go into one pile, card 2 go into another pile. It just makes it so much easier when it's time to pull it all together. There was a couple pieces for card number 2 that I decided not to cut. So this 2H here, I decided I didn't need, and then there's a coordinating white piece as well for card number 2 that I chose not to cut. Having this guide makes things faster and easier, but you definitely don't need to cut every piece and use everything if you don't want to. So here are my 4 piles for all the cards. There's going to be 4 of each card design for a total of 16. It's a great way to maximize your crafting time and still have a nice variety of cards. Now it's time to start thinking about what kind of embellishments and stamps I want to use on these cards. I'm using the light side of Peach cardstock and my anti-static tool there because I'm going to do some embossing. I love embossing for Christmas cards. I just think it makes them look so pretty. And especially with this color palette, I'm going to do quite a bit of silver embossing. I'm going to be using my favorite snowflake set of all time. This is the Floral Snowflakes Stampin' Thin Cuts. And I'm going to do 2 different sizes on this Peach cardstock, and then I'm going to do 2 different ones on the Mulberry cardstock. Now, typically I would tell you to help speed up this process, do all of the stamping at one time for all of the cards. Do all your stamping, do all your die cutting before you start putting anything together. I'm going to switch that up a little bit just for the sake of the video so that it makes sense of what's getting done for each card. But if you're doing this on your own, definitely doing all your die cutting at once, all your coloring at once, and then assembling all your cards is definitely better use of time, I think. I'm using silver embossing powder, and now I'm just going to go ahead and heat set it. And this is the real magic of embossing. No matter how long I've been doing this, I just love watching that powder melt and turn into a gorgeous raised shiny design. Once I have all of those heat embossed, I'm going to go ahead and die cut them with the coordinating dies. I like to line my dies up and then hold them in place with washi tape. You could definitely die cut your pieces first and then stamp on them, but I don't always have a good luck getting them perfectly lined up that way. If you'd like to save a little bit of time, you could also skip the embossing and just stamp them with regular ink, because then you don't have the heat setting process. I'm just cranking these through my Big Shot, and then I will reposition the dies and cut out the remaining snowflakes. I'm also going to do the Mulberry snowflakes off camera. Then I'm going to stamp all my sentiments at once. I'm using this Wonderland card making stamp set and that Warm Wishes saying, and my Intense Black ink. Now, if you're wondering why there's only 3 pieces instead of 4, since I'm making 4 of each design, that's because I went ahead and made 1 as a sample. So now I'm just going back and making the other 3. Now remember, I'm just showing you one way to put these cards together. You can definitely switch it up with your own stamps, your own papers, and get a whole new look. I'm going to dovetail these pieces now. You could definitely stack them on top of each other and make the little slits in them all at the same time, but I wasn't thinking, so I was just doing one at a time. Now, while I start to pull this all together and stick down all my pieces following my one sample that I have there, I'm ready to share the creative design team news with you guys. So if you enjoy card making, scrapbooking techniques, I think you would enjoy our in-depth classes that we teach in the creative design team membership. We have opened the doors. This week only, we are closing on Sunday, July 17th, so there is no time to waste. Each of our weekly technique-based classes includes a printable handout, so you can have like a whole archive of everything that you've learned. And you will have classes from all 8 of us with different styles, different perspectives. So it's just a really rich experience. We offer monthly challenges as well as weekly tip videos. And it's been so much fun seeing our members share artwork using the new techniques that they're learning. I think my favorite part has been hearing from members that they're seeing their supplies in a whole new way, or they feel empowered to try a new technique after seeing it broken down into steps. So in celebration of Christmas in July, you will not only get a free gift when you join this week, but you'll get access to the whole library of classes that we've done up until this point. And if you're already a member, when you invite a friend, both you and your friend will get the free gift. The link to see all the information and to sign up is down in the description box. Now, getting back to our cards, I'm assembling the pieces just like it shows in the guide, and the only thing that's different is the snowflakes, right? Because I'm using different images than what they showed in the guide, so then I just kind of switched up the placement of them. You can definitely take creative license here and move pieces around. You could take a portrait style card and make it a landscape style card, whatever you want to do. I just thought I would keep it exactly the same and show you how different it can look just by adding different paper and stamps. But for sure, go crazy, switch things up, and see what you can come up with. All right, so you can see here, I'm just kind of following the sample that I made myself and adding foam tape to the sentiments, adding foam tape to some of the snowflakes. And I'm going to skip over the rest of this assembly so that we can move on to the next card. I have all my pieces laid out here for card number 2, and I just have a couple of stamping steps to do. So you can see I heat embossed this little sleigh and horse on the Mulberry cardstock and die cut that out. And now I'm taking the piece of Mink and I'm stamping it with a snowflake from that set using Mink ink. So I'm on the light side of the cardstock and it's just going to be a nice subtle tone-on-tone look. I just thought it looked a little plain in between the two pieces of foiled paper if it didn't have something on it. And then I'm also going to stamp my little white piece here. I'm using 2nd generation Harbour ink for the trees. So that's where you ink it up, stamp off, and then stamp it on your piece. And now I'm using Mink ink to add a few little small snowflakes around the outside. And then the last little part here is I'm going to stamp Merry Christmas using this set here. It ended up being off camera, so we're just going to skip to that already being done. Now I'm going to start assembling this card. And what I like to do when you have strips like this is do one side first, and then I'm going to do the other side, and then I will fill in the middle with that remaining piece. And that way I can just kind of eyeball it and get it pretty centered without having to do any measuring. I will avoid doing measuring at all costs. Now I'm not showing every single step in this video because it'd be super long, but if you want this workshop guide, the Cake Day card making workshop is still available on my website. And keep in mind, any of the card making or scrapbooking workshops all come with these guides. So you can use those patterns over and over and repurpose them with whatever paper you want to use. I've popped up this square with thin foam tape, and then I'm using the thin foam dots on this sleigh. I love how we have the option of thin and regular thickness, especially if you're going to send these in the mail and you want to add double layers of foam. The thin ones are the way to go. Okay, and here's finished card number 2 and on to number 3. This one I switched up a little bit more. Instead of using an image, I'm actually going to use a really large sentiment. I love this big Merry Christmas from the Jingle Joy scrapbooking set. It's intended for scrapbooking, but it works great as a focal point on a card. I also use this little snowflake die from Simon Says Stamp. And then I'm going to do some stamping on this Harbour piece. I felt like it was just a little bit too plain and it needed a little bit of pattern. Now I love random stamping my own paper to make custom pattern paper, but it's not super random. I always make sure I stamp off the edges, and usually I do a little triangle formation so they're sort of evenly spread out. If you were going to use smaller images as well, then you would stamp your big ones first and fill in the gaps with the little images. Now it's time to put it all together, and remember, if you were making these, you'd want to do all 4 cards at the same time. Just for the sake of the video, it's easier for me to show you one instead of all 4, so the video isn't like an hour long. Oh, and you know what I forgot to mention when we were talking about the Merry Christmas? I love having big, bold sentiments like this, but I should have mentioned that I used Mulberry cardstock and I heat embossed with the silver. And I think it's the silver that really makes this pop on the card. And I wasn't sure what color to back it with, but I knew I wanted something a little bit darker, but I had already used Harbour as my large piece, so that's why I went for the Mulberry. If I would have silver embossed on top of the peach or even white, it just doesn't have the same effect. And of course, since this is the star of the show, I had to put it up on Pop Dots. It just gives that extra little lift and draws your eye right in. I decided I wanted a couple little embellishments on here, so I grabbed my favorite, the silver glitter gems. Love these things. And I'm just scattering a few up above the Merry Christmas and then on the bottom left corner. And here is what that finished card looks like. I love how this turned out. Here we are at card number 4. This silver glitter piece here in the directions should have been the rose gold plaid pattern, but I thought silver glitter paper looked better. Our sentiment is from the All Occasion set, and it is heat embossed with silver. I have my little pieces there that I dovetailed, and then this poinsettia I stamped with peach ink on peach cardstock. And then the little sprigs and greenery I used from this set here, the Comfort and Joy, and I heat embossed them on vellum. I love silver heat embossing on vellum. It's just so delicate. To start assembling these, I'm starting at the top of the card and working my way down. I didn't overlap these pieces. They are just tucked up right flush next to each other. And then on this Merry Christmas piece, the banner, the little like dovetailed pieces are supposed to be behind it. So I thought the easiest thing would be just put adhesive on that strip and then stick all my little banner pieces on the back of it before I stick it down. And you know what? That worked really well. You just want to make sure you add an extra little dot of adhesive on the back of each one of those so they have something holding them in place. I thought it would be nice to give my flowers a little bit of shape and dimension. So I'm using my bone folder here and just adding little crease lines down the center of each petal. And I'm working on the back side of my Versamat because it's spongy. It's a great surface for both stamping and doing any flower shaping. It just has a little bit of give to it, kind of like a mouse pad. Now I'm just going to use a little bit of my tape runner to stick all these pieces together. I wanted to place my flower first, so then I could just kind of tuck in the little sprig of berries and the little greenery. I had tried stamping this greenery on the sage cardstock, but it was just too much contrast. And I love the softness of this vellum. A little glitter gem there in the center, and that one is done. And that, my friends, is what 16 Christmas cards look like. I love that you get so much bang for your buck with these workshops, right? You get to make the initial workshop and make 16 birthday cards and then transform it into whatever you want it to be. I'm so happy with how these turned out, and I hope you give this a try with whatever workshop you might have. If you've done this already or you plan to do it, I'd love if you'd leave me a comment and let me know what workshop guide you're using. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and make sure you check out Katie's video she posted today as well, and the playlist for the rest of the creative design team. Remember, our membership is only open until this Sunday the 17th, so click that link in the description and go check it out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.